Welcome to Patriots Corner Live with Dr. Hill Law, your source for unfiltered conservative analysis. We're here to dissect this week's biggest stories in politics and the economy, all from a grounded conservative perspective. No talk, no spin, just straight talk about what matters to you. We'll delve into the issues shaping our nation, hold our leaders accountable, and discuss and debate solutions that uphold our core American values. For more than half a century, a deep wound has festered in the American soul. It was opened by three gunshots in the tragic days in a single decade that sent a nation spiraling off its course. Dallas, 1963, Memphis, 1968, Los Angeles, and then just 2 months after that, President John F. Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Senator Robert F. Kennedy, three leaders struck down, leaving behind three official stories, but that stories that for millions of patriotic Americans have never added up. If you're new here, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future streams. We were told these were the senseless acts of lone, disturbed men. Lee Harvey Oswald, a communist sympathizer. James Earl Ray, a common criminal. Sharon, a radical with a grudge. Simply tidy answers for events that tore the country apart. But a nagging doubt has always lingered, a sense that these official narratives were too far, too convenient, and that the real truth was being purposely buried, locked away in the classified vaults of our own government. For years, honest researchers, historians, and the victims' own families have fought for basic transparency, demanding that the secrets surrounding these national traumas finally be brought into the light. They believe that buried in those redacted files was evidence of something far more organized and far more sinister than a few lone gunmen. They believe the files held proof of a conspiracy. Now, after decades of pressure, tens of thousands of documents have finally been forced into the open. The government's most protected secrets are seeing the light of day, and while they may not contain a single memo that says, "We did it," they paint a picture that is in many ways far more disturbing. They reveal a government operation in the shadow, riddled with paranoia and engaged in criminal activities that betray every single principle America stands for. They show a pattern of powerful intelligence agencies failing to share critical information before the killings and then running interference in the investigations that followed. This isn't a story about one smoking gun. It's about a landscape of lies, a battlefield of mirrors where the truth was the first casualty. What these files reveal is not just about who pulled the trigger, but about the nation of a permanent, unaccountable bureaucracy in Washington, a machine that keeps running even when you turn off the main switch, and the secrets it is willing to kill to protect. In today's episode, we will cover some of the most shocking truths learned in the recent document dump of declassified materials released by President Trump at the beginning of his second term earlier this year. And the reason why I figured this might be a good time to come back to these documents, I've seen them somewhat covered, but not covered in real depth. Two, we do have the issues with the Epstein documents going on now. Why are they not? Is there a list? Is there not a list? If there is a list, why are they not releasing it? What's the obviously no, but having trouble believing that, which really the issue with the belief of our government and trust in our government to tell us the truth on that fact, because obviously we think there should be more than there is, or possibly, or they won't tell us why they can't release what there is, even if it is more than what they've said. It all started with the Kennedy assassination and all that is really eroded at the trust in our federal government agencies. Also, since I didn't put this in my script, I'm going to go and cover this now. Is like one thing we just found you can see in these documents, if you read them, is there was a previous intelligence agency that Kennedy dissolved back in the day, and the agency that he built or put in to replace that agency was USAID. So in other words, USAID was never truly put there as a agency to deal with international aid. It was actually an intelligence gathering agency, which is another thing behind that. So now you can catch Patriots Corner live 3 evenings a week on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and Facebook. If you can't catch it live, you can listen to all the episodes on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio approximately an hour after they air live, or you can catch them on our website at Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. That's Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. Your engagement is crucial to the success of Patriots Corner. If you have a question or want to make a statement, please do so. I will review them at the end of each segment, read a few live, and answer questions from respectful comments that foster intellectual debate. Your feedback is invaluable in shaping the discussion. Also, don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to keep the conversation going. Plus, it also helps us with getting more views and getting this show to grow because YouTube and some of those do not put your stuff out unless it's being shared and being liked and stuff. So obviously that helps. I don't know what's been going on with YouTube the last couple days, but so far I've not had very many views on YouTube lately. It seems that that one's been slower. I'm going to take a drink real quick, then I'll get started on segment one. Alrighty. So the assassination of JFK, a flawed conclusion. November 22nd, 1963, the day America's innocence was shattered. President John F. Kennedy, riding through Daley Plaza in Dallas, Texas, was assassinated in broad daylight. The trauma was immediate and absolute. Within hours, the official narrative was already taking shape. The alleged shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald, was in custody, and just 2 days later, Oswald himself was murdered on live television by a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby, ensuring he could never tell his side of the story. To calm a terrified nation, the Warren Commission was formed. Their conclusion, delivered in 1964, was absolute. Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. He fired 3 shots from the Texas School Book Suppository. There was no conspiracy, the government said. Case closed. It was like putting a fresh, clean coat of paint over a deeply cracked wall. Also, I'll mention this guy's name here in a minute, but the mayor's of Dallas's brother, who was the former assistant deputy director of the CIA, was also one of the people appointed to run the Warren Commission. Would he would have a grudge. Now, but for the American people, the case was anything but closed. Common sense raised too many questions. How does one man using a cheap bolt-action rifle fire shots with that speed and accuracy? Why did so many witnesses report hearing shots from a completely different location, the grassy knoll? And why was Oswald a man with a bizarre history that included defecting to the Soviet Union and known contacts with both pro and anti-Castro groups, simply dismissed as a lone nut? The questions wouldn't go away. Then in the late 1970s, the United States Congress was forced to admit the official story might be wrong. The House Select Committee on Assassinations, HSCA, was formed to reinvestigate the deaths of both JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. After a 2-year investigation, the HSCA issued its report in 1979. They agreed that Oswald fired shots that hit the president, but then they took a sledgehammer to that coat of paint on the wall. The committee stated the scientific acoustical evidence established a high probability that 2 gunmen fired at President Kennedy. Their official conclusion was that President Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. Let that sink in. A committee of the United States Congress went on record stating that a conspiracy likely killed the President of the United States. They pointedly criticized the FBI and the CIA, saying their investigations were deficient and that they had withheld key information from the Warren Commission. Now, that's not even to say if you ever go to Daley Plaza and visit there's a guy down there that sells documents and stuff. He was the assistant, doctor at the morgue at the time. And the explanations he gave of some of the stuff that was different from like what you see in the pictures versus the way the body actually came in, and entry and exit wounds just totally opens up the point of the second shooter, and even further debunks the reasons of the only one shooter of Lee Harvey Oswald. I don't have all that information in here tonight because that would take hours and hours to cover, but it is in there. Now, it is essential to note that the committee's explosive conclusion about a second gunman was based on acoustic evidence that has since been heavily debated and questioned by many experts. So while Congress itself blew the lid off the lone gunman myth, the path to the whole truth remained hidden. The official story was broken, but a definitive replacement was yet to be found. For that, we had to wait for the final, most secret files, and what they revealed doesn't point to a small group of plotters, but to a vast, unaccountable intelligence apparatus that viewed the world and its own citizens as pieces on a board in their own dark games. So as we come to the end of our first segment, I would like to remind you to please like, comment, follow, and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I will now take any questions, reply to a few comments before starting the next segment. Please don't forget to check out our website, Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. That is Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. You can sign up free to access our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. All right, so now I'm going to just take a break for a second, see if I've got any comments, which right now I don't see any. I don't see any in I don't see any in Twitch or in the other ones. So, alrighty. Well, let's get on to segment 2, the declassified JFK files, the web of secrecy. For decades, we were told that the JFK files held the key. With the recent releases, the last of these documents are now public. So, what do they really say? The smoking gun memo saying the CIA killed JFK isn't there. To claim it is would be dishonest. But what the files do reveal is like finding a suspect's diary before a murder. It doesn't contain the entry, I killed him, but it is filled with passages about hating the victim, buying a weapon, and practicing at a shooting range. It proves the motive and the means were there. The files show the CIA's intense and previously hidden interest in Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination. The official story was that Oswald was a nobody. The files show that's false. They confirmed the CIA had a significant file on him and was closely monitoring before the assassination. Declassified memos show extensive talk about Oswald's trip to Mexico City weeks before the assassination, where he visited the Cuban and Soviet embassies. The CIA's Mexico station was a fortress of surveillance. They had the place wired for sound and had cameras everywhere. Yet the official story has always been that the Oswald intelligence was bungled. Was this just incompetence, as the agency has always claimed, or was it a deliberate cover for something far deeper? The files also reveal motive at the highest levels. Consider this: the mayor of Dallas in 1963 was a man named Earl Cabell. Recently declassified records prove he was a CIA asset. His brother was Charles Cabell, the deputy director of the CIA, the number 2 man in the agency, who had been personally fired by President Kennedy after the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion. So on the day of the assassination, the mayor of the city, a CIA asset, was the brother of a top CIA official whom the president had just fired. These files don't prove a conspiracy in the assassination itself, but they prove the conditions for a conspiracy and a cover up were firmly in place. They reveal a CIA operating completely outside the law. We see this in the Family Jewels documents, a 700-page list of the agency's own crimes compiled in 1973. These files detailed assassination plots against foreign leaders like Fidel Castro, often using mafia hitmen between they detail illegal spying of American citizens, infiltrating political groups, and wiretapping journalists. Just to begin with, one of the most egregious of these was Operation Chaos. It became a massive domestic spy ring targeting any American citizen the CIA labeled a dissident, a direct violation of the CIA's charter. This proves that in 1963, the CIA saw itself as above the law. It was a rogue state within a state. And for those who got too close to these truths, the stakes could be fatal. Researchers often point to the chilling case of John Paisley, a top CIA officer. After allegedly talking about the CIA's role in the Kennedy assassinations, he was found dead. The official ruling was suicide, but the evidence was bizarre. He was right-handed, but the fatal gunshot was to the left side of his head. I'm sorry, but you're not going to pick your right hand. If you're right-handed, you're not going to go like this. No. You're going to go to the right side of your head. I mean, obviously, this was back in the 70s before DNA was really a thing. Really, the only thing you had back then was fingerprints. So as long as you didn't leave fingerprints and you had fired a other shot that cleared up or something to get the gunpowder residue on the person's hand or force their hand. I mean, there's a couple other things you could have done to make it look like, easily have made it look like a suicide back then, especially with the lack of DNA evidence at that time and how easily it was to do that stuff at the time. Obviously, now it's a whole lot harder. So while the files don't give us a confession, they confirm what a generation of researchers has always suspected. They show an intelligence apparatus that had the means, the motive, and the culture of deception required to pull off an assassination and make sure its fingerprints could never be found. Now, as we come to the end of our second segment, I'd also again like to remind you to please like, comment, follow, or hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I will now take any questions and reply to a few comments before starting the next segment. Don't forget to check out Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. That is Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com, where you can sign up for free to access our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. Also, for people that maybe are new or don't know about YouTube, You do not have to pay to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. It's the equality to the follow button. Obviously, there are paid subscriptions on YouTube, but as of right now, I don't have over 1,000 followers to make that um, level. So I only have it on through my Rumble on my locals channel. So still don't see anybody. Still shows I have a viewer in Twitch. Shows I have a viewer in Rumble, but still don't see any. Still don't see any comments. It says I've had 3 views in YouTube, just nobody in currently. So, all right. Well, I'll get on to segment 3, which is the murder of a dreamer, Martin Luther King Jr. Now, on April 4th, 1968, less than 5 years after Dallas, it happened again. Another shot rang out, this time in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was dead, which was another major aspect in that fact and became another conspiracy story. And once again, the official story was quick and simple. The killer was a lone racist, a drifter named James Earl Ray. After a 2-month manhunt, Ray was captured in London. On the advice of his lawyer, he pled guilty, a move that conveniently avoided a public trial where evidence would have to be scrutinized. Case closed. Or really was the case closed. But just 3 days after his plea, James Earl Ray recanted his confession. He spent the rest of his life insisting he was innocent, a patsy set up by a mysterious figure he only knew as Raul. It would be very easy to dismiss the claims of a convicted felon, but the King family themselves, his widow, Coretta Scott King, and his children came to believe Ray was not the killer. Their skepticism wasn't just based on emotion, it was based on the U.S. government's own documented war against Dr. King. This isn't speculation, it's a matter of public record. J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, harbored a deep personal hatred for Dr. King. Hoover saw King as a dangerous radical who threatened the American establishment. Sound familiar from today? Under Hoover's command, the FBI launched a vicious campaign to neutralize King through its illegal Cointerprolo program. They tapped his phones, bugged his hotel rooms, and used informants to try and discredit him. In one of the most disgusting acts, the FBI sent King an anonymous letter with illicit recordings calling him an evil, abnormal beast and telling him there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. King interpreted it as an effort to blackmail him into suicide. This is the backdrop against which Dr. King was murdered. He was an officially declared enemy of the most powerful law enforcement agency in the country. The very agency tasked with solving his murder had spent years trying to destroy him, and when the House Select Committee on Assassinations reinvestigated, they found the FBI's investigation into King's murder to be profoundly flawed. Just as with JFK, the HSCA concluded there was a likelihood of conspiracy. They believed Ray had help, perhaps from his brother or others. For the second time, Congress officially rejected the government's lone gunman story. But the King family believed the conspiracy went much higher and they would take their fight for the truth to a place the government never wanted it to go, a court of law. And which gets me to why I brought this up is you read what they're saying about this and it makes you wonder why people think, okay, what's going on with the assassination attempt on President Donald Trump? Both of them are the one with the guy that got shot. And is Iran just a patsy and they're not really the ones that were active? Was it a CIA cabal because President Trump pissed off the intelligence agencies and the deep state and they wanted to get rid of him? I mean, which one was it? Because we still haven't gotten enough information. All we know is the guy had multiple phones and that he had apps on his phones that were foreign apps and local apps. I mean, we really don't know why this kid went from being a normal whatever to all of a sudden being on top of that building there in Butler, Pennsylvania, shooting the president. We don't know what really, truly still haven't gotten a exact answer from the FBI or the CIA or the NSA why the other guy that almost got President Trump that was in the car behind at the golf course there at Doral, what happened there? And people wonder why most of the people do not trust when the DOJ says, hey, there is no, it's a nothing burger with the list for Jeffrey Epstein. There is no list. I mean, why do you think people have that trouble? So now as we come to the end of our third segment, again, I would like to remind you to please like, comment, follow, or hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I will now take any questions and reply to few comments before starting the next segment. Don't forget to check out Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. That is Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. You can sign up for free to access our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. All right, that was weird. I actually did have somebody in YouTube for a while, but it wasn't showing up on my Rumble. Alrighty. So yeah, I guess this is gonna just be a short show tonight since we don't really have anybody interacting, or if there's something going on with the comments, because I don't see anything. It still shows I have a viewer in Twitch. Shows I have a viewer in Rumble, but I have not seen anybody comment yet. So I guess I will get on. I was hoping I would get you I was hoping I would get my Facebook to finally go live and be public, but it didn't. Even though I set one up, it didn't pair right with this one or something, so it still went private to be only me, so I can't set it public till after the fact. All right, let's go start with section 4, the MLK files and the Memphis verdict. Now, for decades, the King's families claimed that a conspiracy killed their patriarch was dismissed by the establishment. But in 1999, they did something incredible. They put the conspiracy on trial. The family filed a wrongful death lawsuit in Memphis against Lloyd Jowers, a local restaurant owner. Jowers had publicly claimed he was paid $100,000 by a mafia-connected figure to arrange the assassination of Dr. King, and that James Earl Ray was just a scapegoat. The trial, King versus Jowers and other unknown co-conspirators, lasted for weeks. The family's lawyer presented evidence of a wide-ranging plot involving the mafia, complicit Memphis police officers, and federal agencies who either deliberately stood down their security or actively participated. After hearing over 70 witnesses, a jury of 12 Memphis citizens, 6 black and 6 white, took only 1 hour to reach a verdict. They found Lloyd Jowers and others, including governmental agencies, were part of a conspiracy to assassinate Dr. Martin Luther King. The King family had won. In an American court of law, a jury had officially validated their belief. Coretta Scott King said, "There is an abundant evidence of a major, high-level conspiracy in the assassination of my husband, and the civil court's unanimous verdict has validated our belief. A jury has declared that elements of the United States government were responsible for murdering Martin Luther King Jr." Now, it's a stunning verdict. The situation is like having 2 different referees watch the exact same play. One referee, the jury, saw the evidence and called it a flagrant foul. The other referee, the government, looked at the same evidence and said, "Play on." The U.S. Department of Justice under Bill Clinton reinvestigated in 2000 and rejected the jury's findings, claiming the witnesses were not credible and that it wasn't. And of course, historians also note that a civil trial has a lower burden of proof because you don't have to, in a civil trial, you only have to meet a preponderance of evidence instead of beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what they mean by a lower burden of proof. You have to approve it by a preponderance of evidence versus by an unreasonable doubt, which is a lower standard hit, but doesn't mean it's not true. But it's telling that when the evidence was presented, a jury of everyday Americans believed it. This leaves us with the stark conflict, the official government position that a lone gunman did it, and a Memphis jury that said the government itself was involved. So now, as we come to the end of segment 4, I would like to remind you to please like, comment, follow, and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I will now take any questions and reply to a few comments before starting the next segment. Don't forget to check out our website, Patriots Corner with drhilldahl.com. That is Patriots Corner with drhilldahl.com. All one word. You can sign up for free to access our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. Also, possibly even help with suggestions of content you would like me to cover or subjects you would like me to cover for my next segment. Because when there's a really busy news week, it's pretty easy to pick stuff out. I mean, I could sit there and I could do 6 episodes just on the Supreme Court cases that came out 2 weeks ago, but I don't know if I have that many people that would want to watch that in depth of an analysis on the Supreme Court cases, getting that far into the legality and constitutionality of possibility repercussions, or what could what those could cause, the cases that could affect, and all that. But if enough people said that, then I'd do it. But I doubt people would want me to go into that. So usually I don't do conspiracy stuff. But since I'm not really going into conspiracy in this saying that, oh, this is what happened, this was definitely a cover up, I'm just kind of covering the what ifs and why show that why people are not don't believe the CIA, or why they're not trustful of the government, is why I touched it, because I still eventually maybe someday want to run for office, so I can't go too far on the conspiratorial side. Now, segment 5, a second Kennedy falls, the RFK enigma. June 5th, 1968, just 2 months after Dr. King's murder, America's heart was broken again. Senator Robert F. Kennedy, having just won the California presidential primary, was shot in the kitchen of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. For the third time, the official story was served up a lone disturbed gunman, this time a 24-year-old named Sharon, supposedly enraged over RFK's support for Israel. He was standing in front of Kennedy. He fired his pistol, and that was that. Case closed. But the official story of RFK's death crumbles under the weight of basic forensic evidence. It's like having a video of a suspect standing in front of a victim, but the coroner's report says the victim was stabbed in the back. The two pieces of evidence cannot both be true. The most damaging contradiction comes from the Los Angeles County coroner, Dr. Thomas Nugachi, one of the most respected forensic experts in the country at the time. He performed the autopsy on Senator Kennedy. His finding was clear. The fatal shot that killed Kennedy was fired from behind his right ear at a distance of no more than a few inches. He found powder burns on the senator's skin. Yet every single witness placed Sharon several feet in front of Kennedy. No one saw him get close enough to make a near contact shot from behind. Dr. Nagachi himself stated he believes a second gunman must have been involved. The coroner's own scientific report contradicts the entire official story. And one reason is, why does it seem like they love to go after the Kennedy family as far as the CIA goes? That I don't get. I mean, then there's the bullet problem. Sharon's pistol held only 8 bullets, but an FBI investigation of the crime scene found evidence that as many as 13 shots may have been fired. Where did the extra bullets come from? It's a question that has never been answered. That nobody has ever really answered. Even the declassified documents didn't answer. And what about the woman in the polka dot dress? Multiple eyewitnesses reported seeing a woman with one of Sharon's associates running from the hotel shouting, "We shot him, we shot Kennedy." She was never found by police. These discrepancies have fueled the belief that Sharon was a diversion, a patsy firing from the front while a hidden assassin fired the fatal shots from behind. Even RFK's own son, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has argued that Sharon did not kill his father. The declassified files have not resolved these fundamental contradictions. They don't explain the autopsy. They don't explain the extra bullet holes. The case remains a profound enigma where the physical evidence tells a completely different story from the one the government told the American people. Now, before I get into the rest of it, one thing I was going to say is, I think what makes so hard about the Kennedys is the shot that supposedly was the 3 shots that were supposedly made by Lee Harvey Oswald. They're not impossible, but they are highly, highly improbable. Everything would have to be right for one of those shots to have hit. Trajectory, temperature, humidity, everything would have had to have been perfect. So that's what makes it so improbable that he was the only shooter and why people don't believe it. It's not nowhere near like with this one here where you can't even make or even come close to get the forensic evidence to match the story of the government. At least in JFK's, you could make a match to the shooting out of what the government story is. Obviously, it's so improbable it makes it hard to believe that there wasn't something else. And then you look witnesses, and I mean, don't get me wrong, that area echoes a little bit, but not that much. I mean, there would have had to been trains going by for it to have echoed from the other way at the time, but I doubt they had. And honestly, this is back in the 60s, there wasn't near as many tall buildings, so the echoing probably was even less than it is now. I'm from Texas. I live in Dallas Fort Worth, so I've been to Daily Plazas plenty of times. And then also you have the fact that the light pole was still there at that time. You have the traffic light pole that was in the way. I mean, so who knows? I mean, the sheer volume of secrecy, contradictions, and documented crimes we've discussed as a challenge to the very foundation of our republic. Asking these questions isn't unpatriotic, it is essential. The story doesn't end here. It continues with every citizen who refuses to accept the convenient lies. If you believe the fight for truth is a fight for America itself, please subscribe to this channel and share this video. And I want to hear from you after hearing the evidence. What do you believe? What was it, a lone gunman, or was it a conspiracy from within our own government? Let me know in the comments below. So before we conclude our show, I'd like to remind you to please like, comment, follow, and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I will now take any questions, reply to a few comments before starting my conclusion or starting on the conclusion. Don't forget to check out our website at Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. That is Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com, all one word. You can sign up for free to access our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and to participate in one-on-one discussions. Still wish I could tell if somebody was actually, if people were in here and if I could see make sure my comments are working, because I still haven't seen a single comment on any of my comment boxes. So, alrighty. Oh, I guess I will go ahead and get the conclusion and get this anyway, since I don't have anybody commenting, don't really have anybody to get discussions going with to extend the show out. So, in conclusion, a pattern of deception. 3 assassinations, 3 official stories, 3 lone gunmen, and a mountain of evidence that points to a much darker and much painful truth. When you look at the cases of JFK, MLK, and RFK together, a disturbing picture of 1960s America comes into focus. It's a picture of a nation where its own intelligence agencies were engaged in criminal operations that were profoundly anti-American. The declassified files, while not offering a simple confession, achieved something more important. They confirmed the central fear that critics have had for 60 years, that the CIA and FBI were not objective protectors of the law. They were political actors with their own agendas, willing to break any law to achieve them. We now know from the government's own records about their illegal domestic spying programs. We know about the CIA's family jewels, their own list of crimes, including assassination plots. We know J. Edgar Hoover waged a personal war on Martin Luther King Jr. We know the House of Representatives concluded there were probable conspiracies in the deaths of both JFK and MLK. And we know a Memphis jury agreed that government agencies were complicit in Dr. King's murder. This is the real truth that the files reveal. It may not be one single conspiracy that connects all 3 assassinations. It may be something more chaotic and, in a way, more terrifying. The truth is that in the 1960s, a shadow government existed. Think of it like the deep, unseen currents of an ocean. They steer the ship with immense power, regardless of who is standing at the helm. This intelligence apparatus operated with total impunity, accountable to no one, and saw American citizens and even a president as obstacles to be managed or removed. They created a system where political assassinations was not only possible, but could be done with a plausible scapegoat and a built-in cover-up, all protected by national security. The lone gunman wasn't the cause of the crime. He was the solution to the cover-up. I mean, and who's to say this doesn't still happen today? I mean, the final lessons from these declassified files is a warning about the dangers of unchecked power and official secrecy. The fight for the truth and what happened in Dallas, Memphis, and Los Angeles is a fight for the soul of America. It's a demand for accountability of a rejection of the lies we've been told. True patriotism means questioning your government, especially when it gives you every reason to. These files are open, but the case for a constitutional and transparent America is far from closed. We've got to, and people wonder why the government's still not trusted and how much of this could still be going on. How much this could, I mean, we say that we call it the deep state today. So how far does this deep state still go? Because the thing is, the president's only there for 8 years. These people that are in the CIA, not necessarily the directors of the CIAs, or the assistant director, but the day-to-day agents that really have more power than directors per se, because the directors are just literally political figureheads. They're in that their whole life, from the time they graduate out of high school or college till the time they retire. They're in there. they're entrenched in the government. They know and have more power than almost anybody. So please join us every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday evening. Current times are not set exactly, so please subscribe or follow and sign up on our website at Patriots Corner with drhillaw.com to receive notifications. That's Patriots Corner with drhillaw.com, all one word. For every time we go live, each episode will be available live on Rumble, YouTube, and Twitch and Facebook. And if you can't catch it live, you can watch or listen to it on Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. So thank you for joining. I wish we could have got some more people commenting and gotten some, maybe a little discussion outside of the discussion going on outside of my content, but I will hopefully see y'all Wednesday. Have a good night.